I hope you all had a wonderful holiday, and I hope that you had a happy new year and that this will be a good year for you. However, and I don't know about you, but just for me, it always feels like the holiday season itself it's just not proportional to itself. There's the hype period before Christmas, and then there's Christmas Day, and they're proportionally not connected to one another. We spend a lot of our time and energy that leads up to Christmas to get things ready, to prepare. And once it's finally here, it's gone in a flash. So much effort, so much time goes into the preparations for Christmas for it to be over so quickly. And I think that lack of proportionality kind of leaves us with the question of, now what? There's that moment after everyone is done unwrapping and the meal is eaten and the nap is taken, that whenever you wake back up, you have to look around and wonder, what happens next? Or is that it? And it just feels mismatched. You can do all the traditions, you can take the family back to the airport, you can look at the calendar and you realize it's all over. And it's time to go back to your regularly scheduled programs. When Christmas is over and done, what comes next? Out toward where I live, there's a wonderful and friendly garden center. It's a good place to buy overpriced everything. They're friendly and it's good service and it's good product, but we all know we're paying too much. And so if you buy a Christmas tree there, you're going to get a great tree. It'll be beautiful. But they start at about $150 and go upwards to $800. That's kind of the range for a live tree. And we all know it's too much. And so every year they stock the lot and they fill it with Christmas trees. They get rid of everything else. They remove all the regular stock of shrubs, plants, annuals, perennials. They make room for the Christmas trees. And they are the most beautiful and full Christmas trees you'll ever see. And since they're on the corner of two busy roads, you get to see them often. They decorate the lot with lights. They serve hot cocoa. And since they're on that corner, you see this hopeful anticipation for everyone who drives by. There's this imminence of Christmas with this full forest of Christmas trees. But because they are so pricey, they never sell all of them. Which makes you wonder, what do they do with all the unsold Christmas trees? Turns out they mulch them. That's what provides all your mulch for spring. So if you drive by the lot, the same lot that was so full of Christmas anticipation for a month, drive by the same lot the day after Christmas. What's left is the aftermath. And there's just not much to it. The lights are starting to come down. Some fall down on their own and others are being removed by the employees who are making room for spring. And the Christmas trees are gone, all of them. And when they're gone, you see what's really there. It reveals this barren square footage of gray concrete, which we all knew that's what was there. But whenever the gray concrete is what you see everywhere else, and you've gotten used for the last month to seeing fresh greenery, to go back to the gray concrete, the barrenness, the emptiness, it's just so depressing. All those beautiful trees that didn't sell are gone, mulched. Won't see them again until next year. And these trees weren't the Charlie Brown trees. It's not like they were put out of their misery. These were the good trees, the full ones, the tall ones, the proud. If ever there was a war on Christmas, it wasn't fought in a Starbucks. It's in the casualties and the barrenness of this garden center on December 26th. That's the battlefield for the war on Christmas, December 26th. But year after year, what does stand in that empty lot on December 26th, more visible than ever, is one singular stone statue that seems to never actually sell and go home with anybody else. There's one statue in that barren concrete that stays year after year, and you only get to see it on December 26th. It's a statue of an angel. You never really see that angel any other time of the year. It's always covered by greenery or hidden by other decorations. But on the day after Christmas, as you drive by and wonder to yourself, well, now what? You see that angel standing there all alone in that barren concrete emptiness. And I don't think we're the first to see that sight. I imagine the shepherds went home after the first Christmas wondering the same thing you do each year. Now what? They just had this wonderful vision of angels and singing and a peek into heaven and the glory that was there, and they had to go home and wait for this baby to grow up. And they had to wonder what was coming next. They know they just heard about the Messiah, that he was born. They'd seen the baby. And that hope, that anticipation of Messiah had been built up for so many years. And it was now culminating in this baby who had to learn to eat and walk and talk and go to school and learn how to read and go through puberty and all these things that were just going to take so long. It was going to take time before anything looked or felt different. What were they supposed to do until then? Just go back to shepherding? There's not much to go home to after that first Christmas. Even Mary and Joseph, they probably felt some of that Christmas time blues, wondering what was next. They were warned, they were prepared about Jesus' birth, but now that he was here in their arms, they must have held him and thought, what am I supposed to do now? How do you raise a Messiah? Every parent does, which is not the Messiah part. Every parent wonders what they do next when they have to take the kid home from the hospital and they look down and they think, I have no idea what I'm doing. You look at your sleeping child in your arms and you suddenly feel the weight of 18 or more years just sitting there staring back at you. It's overwhelming. All the things that you know need to happen that you suddenly wonder if you are even possibly remotely equipped to handle. You're left holding a big bundle of now what? Every Christmas story ends that way. But then there's that angel standing in Joseph's dream or in an empty lot at the garden center. To me, that angel stands as a reminder that Christmas isn't over, but it's just begun. The hope, the peace, the love, the joy, all those good Christmassy things that fill our hearts and our hearths on Christmas, they're not meant to end on Christmas Day. They're meant to begin on Christmas Day. And we carry them with us into the new year. Just like the life of that Messiah born all those years ago in the manger was only beginning. We get it all wrong when we think of Christmas as an end rather than a beginning. And I understand why. You have all my sympathies. Poinsettias die and you throw them out. Your HOA yells that you have to have your lights down by Epiphany or else. The trash company threatens that if you don't get rid of the live tree that was so beautiful that you overpaid for a month ago within these certain dates, then you're stuck within your backyard till next year. There's all this pressure to end Christmas. 12 days, no more, no less. That's all you get. Christmas ends every year. And preachers like me stand up on today and try to tell you that Christmas doesn't end. It's just the beginning of something else. And it's hard to buy. So I understand why we try to avoid the angel. I really do. At first glance, when you drive by the once festive tree lot, you see only an old angel statue left by itself. It feels rather bleak and empty, as if all of that Christmas effort was for naught. And I certainly understand why we would prefer to stop reading at the birth of Jesus and skip what comes next. Nobody likes reading the Christmas story in Matthew as much as they do Luke. Nobody. Because chapter 2 gets so awful. Maybe you'll try to package some wise men into the story, but you really do try to cut off Christmas with Jesus being born, and you just want to skip past all of that Herod stuff. Nobody wants to hear the Herod story on the Sunday after Christmas. But like Joseph, we cannot avoid the day after Christmas. It's there every year. For Joseph, however, the stakes were much higher. Returning back to life after Christmas was dangerous for his young family. The angel didn't just stand as a reminder of Christmas, but as a warning of the threat that would extinguish all hope for humanity. If Joseph was to go back home after his first Christmas vacation, to go back to work, to go back to everything he knew, Herod would take the life of his newborn child along with all the other neighborhood boys under the age of 2. For Joseph, the angel proclaimed that Christmas was just the beginning of everything yet to come. And nothing could ever be the same. There was no going back to the way things were. How terrifying that must have been for that young family. Not being able to go home or to raise their newborn with their family. Not able to move into the new house that Joseph just finished building, as was Jewish custom, or to settle into their life together. Not able to return to what they know, who they love, to return to what is familiar and comfortable and safe, when all they wanted was what everyone else had, just to have a family of their own. So Joseph took the kid and his mom and they ran away. They ran away for fear that their new life together might end abruptly, that they might not ever get to start. That's not what they expected Christmas to be. They expected colic. They expected sleepless nights. They expected swaddling clothes and teething. They expected all of these things. They wanted a year of firsts. Wanted a year of first rollover, first standing up, first crawling, first words, first steps. Not first passport, first threat to life, first time living as refugees, first time away from home and family. Christmas wasn't supposed to last, and it certainly wasn't supposed to be like that. And in the middle of all of that fear, all that confusion, all that lament and mourning and chaos, there stands that angel in Joseph's dreams, like a statue in an empty Christmas tree lot, stripped bare of all the things that he ever wanted. And you don't want to look at it because you just can't stomach to think why that angel is still there after Christmas. It should have been packed up with everything else. It's just too painful to face what's next after Christmas is gone and over. So we would all much rather just keep on with our commute and get back to the grind rather than remember that Joseph had to go to Egypt. After all, what might that angel say to you after Christmas? Sure, the angel just a few days ago heralded good news, peace on earth, goodwill among people, all those wonderful things. But does it have the same message after Christmas? Didn't for Joseph. Perhaps it'll bring bad news from Herod's court. You know, it seems like 50-50 odds with these angels when they show up. You're either going to get great news or bad news, or sometimes both. But there's no escaping those odds. They're always there. Every time an angel appears to someone in Scripture, you've got equal chances of good news or bad news. And usually it's just, you can't have one without the other. What if that angel is here to ask too much this time? What if this year isn't any easier than last, or is even harder? What if this is the year that everything I know and love gets uprooted and shuffled around? It's a risky thing listening to angels. Or is it? The angel brought Joseph bad news. But the angel's bad news was the warning that Joseph needed to help his family survive, to ensure the survivability of the hope of the world, the life of the Messiah. No, Joseph didn't want to go live in Egypt and raise a family there, but raising a family in Egypt was better than not having a child to raise at all. And most importantly, that angel in Joseph's dreams, it stood as a reminder that God was still with him during all of this. Of all the things that got packed up after Christmas, God wasn't one of them. The HOA can't make you pack that up. There's no rules about how long God stays up in your house. There's no trash laws about when the Christmas tree gets picked up and you have to throw God out with it. It doesn't work that way. God stays unpacked after Christmas. That angel reminds Joseph of that. And no matter what comes next, Joseph can know without a doubt that God was in it with him. That's the reason why Christmas is a beginning, not an end. It wasn't turning out how Joseph had planned, but at least he knew that God was going to face what came next with him. After all, this Jesus, this newborn he was trying desperately to get to sleep and to keep alive, was Emmanuel. He was God with him. So Joseph went to Egypt, and God went with him. And we're left wondering what will happen now that Christmas Day is behind us, and we are all left to face what comes next. It's that New Year's anticipation, or perhaps that New Year's fear that haunts us now. Maybe 2023 will be the best year you've ever had and be full of happiness and wonder and lottery winnings and joy and all those great things. I hope so. I truly do. But if one day you wake up and you find out that you are metaphorically headed to Egypt, that this year isn't going to go the way that you planned, don't forget that angel in the empty Christmas tree lot. It stands there as a reminder that God didn't get packed up with everything else. God stayed home with you. To the very, very bitter end. The last words of Jesus to his disciples in Matthew are the same as more or less the first words about Jesus in Matthew. God is with us. The angel proclaims to Mary and Joseph that Jesus is God's presence with us. And the very last thing Jesus says to his disciples in Matthew 28 is, I am with you always to the very end of the age. Presence from beginning to end. In this meal, we find that presence. In our worship, we find that presence in empty tree lots, in Christmas boxes. Everywhere you look, God stays with us. Egypt, Israel, and everywhere in between. No matter if you stay where you think you're supposed to be or end up someplace completely foreign, God goes with you. Ezekiel tells the same message and paints a terrifying picture of a throne of God that's this mobile wheelchair that looks, I guess, probably a lot like those little motorized unicycles people commute on. And it looks terrible, and it's an awful image, and it's horrifying, but Ezekiel's metaphorical point still stands. The throne of God is a mobile thing. It goes with you. So no, I know that you didn't want to hear about Herod slaughtering innocent children on the Sunday after Christmas. I know it's a downer. But somewhere in the middle of that is the greatest hope you'll ever find. In that presence of God. That even in the most horrific moments of life, God stays with us and sees it through with us to the very end of the age. So come to this table this morning and try to take God out of the box before you pack up Christmas and leave him out just a little bit longer, because I don't know what 2023 has in store for any of us, but I do know this. That angel stands as a reminder in Joseph's dreams, in an empty tree lot, and here this morning in this meal. The reminder is the same no matter where you see it or how you hear it. God stays with us wherever this year takes us.